Let's start today's session together. No matter where you are, how busy you are, this moment, let's put aside all the things. Which demands this sheer action from each of us. We are all human beings. That's a fact. The fundamental fact of our existence. But why does the mind feel irrelevant to that statement? Why does the mind get lost in one's own life, one's own experience, one's own world? It's no difficult to recognize the correctness of this statement that we are all human beings. But can the mind, or does the mind feel true? Feel so? Intellectually, it is no difficult, as we said, to recognize, yeah, we are all human beings. But can one feel it? Feel it in one's heart and blood? What are those factors that prevent one from feeling the truth of this statement, we are all human beings? Without feeling the truth of it, that statement must inevitably become platitude, cliche. Which can be repeated time and time again. But it is devoid of the depth and the meaning, unless the mind feels so. Is that because the mind is trapped in a particular state? That particular state disconnects the mind from its totality, that we are all human beings. And that particular mind is embodied by the individuality, isn't it? The individuality means something special, unique, particular. One's preferences, liking, disliking, seeking, and avoidance. So the individuality means various personal, particular traits of a person. And when the mind is trapped in that particular state, which is the individuality, that state dominating the mind feels disconnected from others. Therefore, we are all human beings becomes meaningless. That slogan can be repeated. But deeply, one doesn't feel so because the mind is trapped in the individuality. Therefore, it is hypocrisy, isn't it? When we look at this human world, various statements, slogans, mantras are repeated time and time again. But the mind doesn't feel the truth of it, doesn't go beyond the verse to feel the truth of it. Therefore, everything becomes mechanical. In that mechanical state, it is hypocrisy. Various slogans, quotes, or any other expressions are repeated by a particular mind. But those things are meaningless to a particular mind. Because the particular state is the divided state of the mind that is disconnected from the totality. Therefore, it is absolutely necessary for one to observe completely the particular state of mind. And in that pure observation, which involves deep understanding, the particular state of mind comes to an end. Unfortunately, this whole world is dominated by the particular mind. And it is very easy for one to be trapped, caught up in that state. personal experiences, personal preferences, identity. Various petty things around me, the self, various self-images, reactions. When the mind is trapped in that, the mind is lost. Because that trapping state implies me first, the self-importance. The particular mind and the self-importance is one thing. When something becomes particular, it becomes protruding, pointed. And that pointing state of the mind is the self-importance, isn't it? And this world is full of points, very sharp points. The point is full of aggression, violence. So there is always a bitter fight between different points. It's like a needle. And this world is full of needles hurting each other. Therefore, each needle, each point feels disconnected. Is that the world we are living in? In that particular state of mind, the mind suffers. And that suffering is again translated by the particular mind as my suffering, my issues, my challenge. So that particular state of mind, which is a trap, self-trap, mechanically translate everything as personal. Even translating what the speaker says as the speaker's personal opinions. Though always note what the speaker says is not his opinions at all. But this personal and particular mind which is a trap, prevents oneself from listening and discovering. And this individualistic world is based on this, right? Yours, mine, his. Therefore, everything is reduced to some personal. Therefore, enhancing the particular state of mind. How can one end the particular state of mind? Please don't make it into a problem, but rather, can one observe others in oneself? Observing without any movement of thoughts, observing without any judgment or seeking. Not to seek the opposite of the particular mind. It is very easy for the mind to seek the general mind. The opposite of a particular mind is general, but the general has its particular state in it at its root. The general is still the summary of the particulars. Therefore, linguistically, the general seems to be different from the particular, but in essence, in actuality, the general is no different from the particular. And the human beings are often used mistakenly to point to the general. Behind which there is the continuation of the particular state of mind. But rather, can one observe the particular state of mind without associating with the general state? Ending that state, the particular state, is not to go to the opposite, the general state, but rather go beyond the particular state of mind. Ending means complete. Ending the particular mind means that one is observing completely what is going on when the mind becomes particular. That pure observation, which is not a thought process, but rather one uses or let the mind or let the, the intelligence of the mind perceive directly, penetrate into the particular state of mind. And seeing what is going on there. The very seeing, which means insight and discovery, dissolve the particular state. When one observes the particular state of mind, STs, one finds that that state of mind is full of targets. And when the mind is targeting something, there's compulsion behind. The mind can target a person, a thing, and devotes all the energy to it. Targeting somebody can develop the attachment to somebody, which breeds various issues in the relationships. When one is following somebody, some guru, or some leaders, the mind is still targeting something. It is still the particular mind functioning. And when the mind is targeting, the words, the expressions become very aggressive, full of innuendo, attacks. Perhaps that's one of the factors that leads to the arguments between people. And this world becomes so argumentative, doesn't it? Because the mind is so particular, always targeting somebody or something. And when the mind is targeting, the compulsion is strong. And through the targeting, this strong energy is released. So perceiving the danger of this state, seeing that the mind is always concentrating, and that concentration breeds disorder, leading to this particular state of mind. And the concentration becomes more and more concentrating. Therefore, the target becomes smaller and smaller. But it is still but it is still the same issue, the same pattern. In a world full of targets, full of needles, points, can one be free from all that? When a needle clashes another needle, there's only mutual hurt. The needles are still there. With perpetuated hatred, aggression. Which is not only manifested in the personal level, but also in various sectors of the society. Look at this war between countries. It is still the functioning of the particular state of mind. Therefore, there's no solution to it. In the particular state of mind, there's no solution to stop violence, hatred. Everything becomes from bad to worse. Can the mind see the fact of this? Can one live a life without being the particular? When the mind is free from any needles, any points, it becomes all round. And that state, which is never particular, never pointed, can crush any points, any needles. Similarly, one stop the pattern of treating others as how others treat one. Can one treat anybody well, regardless whether one is treated well or not? particular triggers the particular perpetuates the particular. Can one be out of that reaction chain and cease to be particular? Stop being particular. When the mind stops being particular, the mind is no longer trapped in the mechanically personal view. The mind is capable of seeing things as they are. Therefore, it can see the suffering of each human being. When the mind is particular, but when the mind is particular, as we said today earlier, the mind merely translates everything, including its issues, as personal. Therefore, it cannot see the common thing of all human beings. When the mind is affected by this disorderly particular state, when the mind is no longer particular, the mind has stopped its excessive self-concern. Therefore, there's natural concern for the whole world, for the humanity. The mind sees the truth that we are all human beings. Otherwise, the mind is merely trapped in its own endless self-concern. Perpetuating the particular state. Therefore, there's constant oscillation, disconnection. And in that endless self-concern, there's great personal need. Which are driving this commercial world. As one can see, the commercialism and the consumerism is dominating the civilization. And to maximize the profits, the commercial world is making most of this particular state of mind and enhance it. Cultivating more desires, more needs. Which is manifested in that flourishing state of the commercial world from the west to the east. Can one observe all those without any justification, contamination, without being influenced by anybody, but see for oneself clearly? The whole society is based on the particular state of the mind, which is disorder. Therefore, the society is disorder. Can the mind break through all the patterns? Can the mind end all the disorders in oneself? Only then a brand new society can be possible. So now let's keep silent for 5 minutes to savor the meaning of what we have discovered today in the session. The mind has no directions. It is perceiving, observing. Feeling the sensation of the body. Observe completely the movement of thoughts without being caught up in the thoughts. The formation of a particular mind is based on knowledge. The mind is trapped in the known. When the mind is concentrating all the time, the mind must be trapped in the known. The mind is focusing on very small details. The name of a person, the image of a person, various labels of a person. So the mind becomes very pointed, targeting. Can the mind not be occupied by any knowledge? So the mind can stay unknown. When the mind is trapped in the known, there is immediate self-importance. And this self-importance is always expressed in various unique forms, which is still the particular mind, isn't it? And various different forms of self-importance sets up endless barriers, making the mind competitive, argumentative. And the self-importance breeds so many conflicts, contradictions. Therefore, one becomes more and more withdrawn. Other one want to be more self-assertive, more confident. Does not want to be crushed by other people's excessive confidence. So there's endless struggle in it. Can the mind come back to the unknown? Not knowing ends all self-importance. Living in a world full of self-importance, can one be free of all the self-importance? Please don't merely listen, act upon it, and find out for yourself the impact of it. The impact of not knowing. The impact of real humility. When the mind stays unknown, ends its self-importance and this particular state of mind. And the particular mind is always harsh. But when the mind stops being particular, it becomes soft naturally. And the softness can swim across the world full of hardness. Come and live a life this way, seeing the truth of it. Great. I think that's enough for today's session. Let's end this session in silence.